Even better, he found a bunch of escaped slaves, about 300 escaped slaves, and a bunch of slave owners were like, hey, can you bring back my slaves? And he was like, you come here and get them. And he goes, it's not the U.S. Army's job to capture your slaves, and left. And they were like, we're upset. And he's like, cool.
Welcome back to The Buck Starts Here, the podcast that digs deep into juicy stories, power plays, and wild twists that shape the presidencies of the United States. My name is Kyle, the Otto von Pilot, to Eric's Clarence Auvert, and today we're diving into the first and last time we elected a Zach president. I think we fact-checked that the first time we recorded this. This is now the third, I think, right? So normally I don't know what's going on these episodes. This one I'm going to seem really, really smart, but that's because I've only practiced it a couple times already.
That's because Kyle is actually really, really smart.
No.
Don't laugh at that. It's very true. Well, I gotta say, Zachary Taylor's an absolutely fascinating president. Who is not very well known for his escapades, despite having one of the most interesting pre-presidential careers that I think any president's had, mixed with just a fascinating man in general. So I'm happy. I'm always going to be happy to talk about Zachary Taylor.
All right. Okay. So let's see. We've got 2 episodes, I think, planned out. We got life, then we'll have presidency in episode 2, and then we're planning on doing Mexican-American War for the part 3 special. We're saving that one because Zachary Taylor and a few other guys have kind of they seem to have crossed paths in this point, so we wanted to give that kind of its own special.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And plus, I think the Mexican-American War is something that's an absolutely fascinating piece of U.S. history that gets very glossed over. And I get it, because it's not as interesting, and we're coming up on the Civil War, so you necessarily don't have time to talk about it. But all these famous names were made during the Mexican-American War.
Right. But also, I think the reason why we don't look too closely at it is because we might find some things that maybe we don't necessarily want to see.
Yeah, it is a little weird. We may or may not have started that war.
We may have been the baddies in this one.
Are we the baddies? No.
I think we might.
I don't know, man. I have... The Mexican-American War is very weird, too, because you have, like, the collapse of the Spanish Empire that's causing a lot of, like, skirmishes and stuff like that. Like, I'll fully be the first guy to tell you, I think the Texans were the bad guys in the Texas-Mexican War. Whatever side's fighting for slavery is the bad guys. And you can have 2 bad guys. That's perfectly fine, too.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know. I feel Texas...
Right, yeah, that's true.
But...
Two bad guys can fight each other.
Yeah, that's fine. Sounds honestly preferred in many cases. I was about to get very political there and start naming off like current wars going on, and I was like, oh, why would I do that? I benefit nothing from that. Like, there's no benefit for me for saying that. So, do you want me to start diving in? But since you already know the story, Kyle.
Oh no! I've already forgotten all of it. This is actually going to be new to me again. Anyway, I'm glad we waited 3 weeks before visiting.
Right. Well, Zachary Taylor, he's like many of the presidents before him, hails from Virginia. He's from Orange County, Virginia. I do find it funny that you can say he's from Zach from Orange County.
Can we do the accent?
Like Orange County people?
No, the way you've been doing anybody from Virginia. You've been having the Orange County, Virginia.
Oh. I don't do that on purpose. That's a really weird thing. No, that is weird. That's from going to school down there.
Is it really?
Probably, yeah. Like I very much like regional accents in the United States because I find them very funny. Also, I get frustrated how slow people in the South talk.
Oh my God, right?
Get out! Come on! We got an economy. We got to get running. Come on,
dude. Everything happens at its own time down there.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to yell at people when I'm driving isn't vulgarities or swears. It's just to yell, "You're hurting the economy." Yeah, I feel like it takes more mental energy. That's the type of insult that you think of when you're like eating dinner and you're watching TV. You're like, I hurt the economy. Am I hurting the economy? It's more
so
like
those ones that just hurts later. It wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's sociological guilt, and I kind of like that. You're like, oh no, I'm the problem. So Zachary Taylor, he's born November 24th, 1784. So he's one of the first founding fathers who was born in the United States, which is cool. It's kind of cool to start thinking you have these. You have presidents born who the idea of the American Revolution was history to them. Right. The way I look at, as somebody born in 93, the way I look at the Cold War, it's just like, oh, that was a huge thing that I have I know it happened. I know it was important. I just have no idea about it. Yeah, so he's born to Richard Taylor and Sarah Taylor. They're not very prosperous when he's first born. His dad's an American Revolution retired officer who had there's not a lot of primary accounts of his service during the American Revolution because obviously it was like we had amazing notes during that time of what every single person did. But he was very well respected for his service in the community. He served very valiantly to the point where he even got paid for land. He got 10,000 acres just outside Louisville, Kentucky, which is where Zachary Taylor's association with Kentucky comes from.
10,000 acres is a lot, isn't it?
That's a small piece of land.
How many miles are in an acre? 640 acres in a mile?
Like
square mile?
Square miles. So a square mile is like 26 million square feet. Acres like 44,000. So what's that? Is that 500? Do the math on this. No, I was right. So I said 26 million square feet equals a mile. It's 27 million square feet equals a mile.
Yeah, 15 is just over 15 square miles. Yeah, you're right on the money. Wow.
Awesome.
You're pretty good at doing that math.
No, so it's a huge chunk of property.
Yeah.
So his father had this it seems like early in his childhood, Zach was told stories of being of the founding of our country, battles, military prudence. And so as he's growing up, all he wants to do is be a soldier. Like he was a poor student. And it's funny because he wasn't necessarily, it's weird when you read about him. He was never seen as like a poor student in a sense of lack of discipline or lack of intelligence. He just didn't want to be in school, man. He was one of those, or he used to, one thing we're always very open about is talking about the history of slavery with presidents. So by the time he moves to his family home, by the time his family moves to their new home in Louisville, and his father went ahead of them and then sent for his family. They had 26 enslaved people according to the census of 1800. He was mid-teenager at this point. Mm-hmm. But he preferred to be working on the field. And it was funny because he's described as a poor student, but he was very good at land management. He learned every type of farming. He's kind of that classic trades kid we all went to school with, who hates
better
math.
With his hands, kind of
right. Who hates math, but can do math in his head if you apply it to a pipe or electrical wire.
Right. I used to work with a pipe fitter that he didn't. He had to go get his GED like after failing out of high school, but yet he can still. I see him doing trigonometry equations on like at the grease pencil as he's like trying to work out the bend radiuses for his pipe fits. Like, dude, it's just not school wasn't for him, right?
So it's funny, as he's growing up, his father does instill into him, these different ideals of being industrious. And I think, we have a short out where
that was Polk, I think. It's
not
industrious.
Yeah, it's not industrious if you have other people doing the work. But something that is discussed throughout, Zachary Taylor's life was this hard work ethic, him hearing the stories of his father in the American Revolution, him looking back at the founding fathers, and having that patriotic zeal. And what ends up happening leads into a life of military service. So he ends up staying on the farm. He receives a good education for the time, but both in trade, but also in your traditional classical fields, you would say. But he's tutored at home.
Okay. So I was going to ask if there's any schools in Kentucky at this point.
It's funny. It's funny you bring that up because I'm writing for some of the other stories as we go ahead. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was looking at was kind of like how developed certain areas are. And Kentucky is weird, man. Like Kentucky's like, it's at this point in time, it's like Louisville's is like growing and it's becoming what you would recognize as a city. So there is education in there, but then it just so quickly goes into the just great unknown. But it depends where you are.
Right. Okay.
So he sets this ambition for himself as a child of wanting to be a lifelong professional soldier. That's what he wants to be. And as he gets older, he never abandons this. So in 1808, he leaves the family home and he becomes commissioned. He gets an Army commission at age 23. And he comes in as a first lieutenant in the 7th Infantry Regiment. Like he comes in as, the the lowest officer you can be, pretty much. And so he leaves in 1808 and takes his first commission, and he's sent to a frontier garrison in Fort Pickering, which is modern day Memphis, Tennessee. So you're talking like western Tennessee, hitting into what's essentially just super dense forest and land that's currently being fought over, negotiated over, and bled over, to be honest. And when he's first out there, we see the first, something that would come to define Zachary Taylor throughout his military career, is that ability to be independent, that ability to lead men in what is essentially the middle of nowhere. And something that we'll talk about, and something that'll develop over this time period, as we discuss here, is that Zachary Taylor makes an amazing reputation of being able to maintain order and discipline, and to be honest, to be liked by his men when they are just in the middle of nowhere, like where it should be the hardest possible place to maintain order. He's excellent at it. But so another thing that will come to define his military service is his illnesses. He is constantly getting sick. He's constantly. I often wonder, when I was reading this, like, I wonder if he had an autoimmune or immune system disorder, because it seems like when you can get sick, he gets sick.
Or was he just a hypochondriac and maybe
No, he was like on death's door a lot.
Yeah,
like legitimately sick and trying to get back to his men. So in 1809, Lieutenant Taylor, at the time, he led a company of new Army recruits on a march from Kentucky down the Mississippi River to New Orleans. And what's interesting is
this is what time frame is this? This is like during the Battle of New Orleans, right?
We're way before that.
Okay. It's like 3 years before, though, right?
About 6 years before.
Wasn't Jackson like going down there and like shoring things up around some point around here?
Yeah, like 1814-ish. Something about that.
Ways to go. Okay.
Yeah. So he leads this march down to the Mississippi River, and it's horrific. All these illnesses start sweeping through the camp. They get like they don't get to New Orleans, but they're relatively outside New Orleans, and they start setting up camp. But by this time, people have been wiped. The diseases have wiped through. But anyway, so he's sick, and command finally says to him, like, you need to leave. You're gonna die. Like, they literally thought he was gonna die. There was a bunch of troops, but we're just focusing on Taylor.
Yeah.
So basically, they're like, we think you're gonna die. Some people are thinking they're sending him home so you can die at home. Like that's what they're talking about.
Jesus.
And but he gets sent home. He returns to Louisville, and he's going through, he's in this respite. He's trying to relax and heal up. He ends up meeting his future wife, Peggy Smith, who's the daughter of, actually, ironically, a Maryland planter. So she's a little ways from home.
Right. What's she doing out there?
Her sister lived out there.
Oh, okay.
So her sister just started effectively homesteading out there. And so he's, sick.
A woman homesteader in the...
Yeah, with her husband.
Oh, okay. I was going to... All right.
So she, despite being gravely sick, a romance blossoms, and they'll be married shortly after. They married in 1810. So it's June 22nd, June 21st, 1810. They get married at the home of Peggy's sister.
Yeah.
And as a wedding gift, Zachary Taylor's father gifted them 324 acres to establish their land on and start building their life.
Of his 10,000. Thanks, Dad.
Couldn't
spare a little more.
3.24%.
Couldn't give a round number.
Yeah. What's interesting though is that apparently it's just like his most valuable land. Like it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was
all right. Let me keep the crap land. You can at least have the good stuff.
So, because this is what really made him wealthy, was that the land was very, very. It was high producing land, and so Taylor, he eventually has 6 kids. He has 5 daughters and 1 son, but he has 2 daughters who died early in their childhood, and a lot of his kids are born while Peggy's traveling with him on military service. Those kids are born all over the country, and
did she travel with them that much?
Oh yeah. They're that's like, I believe that's where the word garrison actually comes from. Is more about the living quarters with family than it is about what we consider garrison.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it's funny. So they're moving around, and this will continue his whole military career. So we're in 1810 now. They don't stop moving until about 1840. So there's 30 years of kind of this constant moving. But it is funny. Peggy, when it wasn't even like Zach was done moving around. Eventually, Peggy was just like, in 1840, she was like, "Do you know what, honey? I'm gonna go to my family's estate in Louisiana. Come get me when you're done with this nonsense." I do very much like Peggy Smith throughout this entire thing, because she just seems like she's like, they have an awesome relationship. From everything I've read, like they're in love. She's like, good. She's a peer to him. He has all this respect for her, but she's like, "I'm going to follow you through thick and thin." But after 30 years, like, I just want to like relax. I don't know, like you keep wanting to go ahead and fight people. Like, I don't know what's going on. So right after they get married, it's 1811, and he gets sent. He's sent out to what we call frontier service. So we're in, think of like Michigan, Wisconsin area, all the way down to Louisiana.
Harrison's home or territory, right?
Yeah, it's up serving under Harrison. So while he's on frontier service, he gets promoted to captain. Well, he's at Fort Knox in Indiana, or the Indiana Territory at the time, being administered by William Henry Harrison, and they promote him up to captain. And at the same, shortly after he gets promoted to captain, he actually has his first child, Anne Margaret Taylor, which is a great name.
It's a good name.
A tight name. I like that.
If you're gonna be a Margaret, and Anne Margaret is a good.
Anne Margaret's a fire
name.
A fire name. So at this time, he ends up being witness to a court martial, and that's the court martial of General James Wilkinson, the man who led those people on the march from Kentucky down to New Orleans that saw these mass waves of disease breakout that would eventually lead to him being introduced to his wife. So it is funny because he's in the courtroom, well stationed with his wife, watching the court martial. And
I thought he was the one who got court martialed. It was Wilkinson.
He was way too low ranked. Yeah, he was way too low ranked.
Interesting.
So, but interesting enough is, and very rare for the time, is General James Wilkinson is found not guilty.
Yeah.
He was Taylor. There's competing stories here, but some people report Taylor was asked to testify and never testified. Others just say he never testified. I don't know. I probably think at this point, a captain on a front. There's not that many people on a frontier. Frontier service. Fort Knox, Indiana, is actually fairly large at this point. It would be weird if they didn't at least say like, "Hey, Captain, maybe you'd be a good source to talk about this."
Especially if you were going to defend your leadership, which was kind of the impression I would have gotten out of that, the way that whole situation went, right?
Yeah, he wasn't angry at the general from everything I could read. He was just like, "Oh, it's like disease. Like, what are you?"
They ran into malaria. What are you going to do?
Yeah, right. Like,
yeah.
So the War of 1812 breaks out, and during the War of 1812, as we've talked about in a few episodes, you have the Confederacy. The Native American Confederacy, obviously not the Confederacy of the South.
The Confederacy.
Yeah, which lasted, like, I think my underwear is like 3 to 4 times longer than the Confederacy. It definitely is, actually, now I think of it. So, talking about William Henry Harrison, one of the first tastes of real combat that Zachary Taylor gets is at the defense of Fort Harrison. So, during the War of 1812, Captain Zachary Taylor, he was commanding Fort Harrison, the Indiana Territory, and it came under attack by the Confederacy, the Native American Confederacy, with British support, and British regulars were also included in there.
Oh, really?
So exactly. Oh, yeah. This is kind of
these like Napoleon regulars, like people who just come across or just got done fighting.
No. It wouldn't. This would be like them coming down from Canada. We don't start to see the Continental Army, like the Napoleon Continental Army, start coming over from. When I say Napoleon Continental Army, I mean the British troops that fought on the continent of Europe. We don't see that till the burning of the White House in 1814. So Zachary Taylor's completely sick as a dog. Like, he has this horribly high fever. He's apparently ghost white. He's sweating like profusely. He looks like he's about to die. He rallies his troops, and like the people who describe it, singing at the time, are like, and this was a small garrison. There weren't that many troops there, but they end up holding the not only are they holding the fort, but his troops report like leading them like a madman. He's both strategic, he's up in front, he's fighting, he's firing, and they end up repelling this much larger attack that they had no business attacking. And this ends up becoming a huge story in America because it's one of our first wins during the War of 1812. It becomes very much like the story of Midway, the story of Guadalcanal during World War II, where it's like, oh my, we're on our back heels, especially the Battle of Midway. And to a certain extent, I know Wake Island fell, but to a certain extent, Wake Island, where it's like this heroic defense. And they go, hey, maybe we can beat these guys. And more importantly is that it wasn't just defeating a Native American detachment. It had Brits with them, and they had British weapons.
Right.
And so after this happens, he gains all this national
Notoriety.
attention notoriety. Because there's all these reports that are flowing back to James Madison about this gallant and efficient services that Zachary Taylor provided. And James Madison actually promotes him to major by October of 1812 to honor this performance. And what's cool is that for the rest of his career, despite climbing up to general, he's known as Major Taylor by his men. Like that, that just sticks with it. He loves it. Like he's and that's the thing about Zachary Taylor is that throughout his career, he's considered a soldier's general or a soldier's officer.
Yeah, he's
known for.
How do you not have respect for the guy that's, like you said, on death's doorstep? It's basically throwing off the sheets and getting out of bed to go grab a gun and lead the defense like a maniac. Like you see that, and you're like, well, I guess. I've only been shot twice. I guess I can keep going.
And he's a very, very good technician.
Right. Logistically, I think you said he was really good at that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So and we'll see that as we walk through kind of the chronological order of his career. Is that as he's given more power, the more ability to kind of exercise that agency, where you can really start seeing the reflections of strategic thinking. He really is excelling and able to kind of show his worth. So he gets promoted to major. Everybody knows the Major Taylor. This is where he starts developing his reputation as rough and ready. He's known to go and drink with the men in their camps. He's known to play cards with them. He doesn't like sleeping in officer quarters. He's known to just like sleep in barracks with the rest of the guys, and they absolutely love him. So after the heroic defense of Fort Harrison, he does take brief sick leave. By this point, Harrison has moved over troops and basically neutered that side of that flank during the War of 1812. So General Harrison, as we covered previously, showing what he's really good at, which is he beats you with logistics and maneuver warfare. It
doesn't have to fire a shot. Yeah,
it's got to be weird to fight a guy that you're just like he's just beating you because he's putting troops where you didn't think they were going to be.
That's frustrating. That's like fighting Floyd Mayweather or boxing Floyd Mayweather at his prime. Like you're just never going to hit him.
It's never going to hit him. So by this time, the Western Front had not calmed down, but relatively calmed down, and this is obviously now moved to more of a naval war. And his chain of command's like, hey, Taylor, you got to go home. Like you got to go back to Louisville, rest up. The thing is that like when he's in theater, he almost makes himself sick. Again, he's almost like.
Is he out drinking every night with the troops and sleeping on the floor?
There's been several admirals during World War II died that way. Ching Lee died that way.
No kidding.
He died as a heart attack on his way back, and he was a dude who like figured out like naval gunnery. I think it was Halsey. He used to get like horrible rashes, like just horrible rashes because he was so stressed and freaking out. Major Taylor's following in that very, very similar way. So his command's like, hey, they're like, Zach, get the hell home. Like, go home. You're gonna die out here, and it doesn't help us if you die out here. So
he's probably like, his wife, so writing letters to his superiors. Please send him home. Like, please.
So he ends up going home in 1813. He gets home. He's like recovering, and he just hates it. He's like, my men are in the field, so he just leaves. He just leaves. He leaves and just goes back to Fort Knox, Indiana. And they're like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'll recover here. And they're like, that defeats the purpose. What are you doing, dude? Like, that defeats the purpose. He's like, I'm good. So he's there. He's still sick as a dog. there's a couple theories on why he was sick. A lot of people are just like, dude, he got malaria. It's just sticking with you the rest of your life.
That could be.
Right.
That would explain it, right?
So he's there for a few months. 1814 rolls around, and they're trying to you look at like the Western theater during the War of 1812, right? If you go a little further south, you have like the Missouri territories and such, which are because the Mississippi River is becoming kind of a hotbed. Does it mean the western flank is at risk? Maybe. Is it widespread fight? No, it's not. I don't want to say it's not Napoleonic fighting. So they get to Fort Knox, and they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to go out there and lead these troops." And Zachary Taylor's like, "I'd love to." And they're like, "You're sick. You're super sick, but also you're a great officer.
You're also really good at this when you're sick for some reason."
Yeah. So they're like, here's a bunch of men. Go out and help defend St. Louis. So he's like, sweet. He gets a bunch of regulars. He gets a bunch of militiamen, and they get up to the Mississippi River, and their job is pretty much go to the Mississippi River, destroy any hostile Indian villages, and construct a new fort at the mouth of the Des Moines River, basically to act as a choke point for the rest of it.
Right.
Now, something that will come to define Zachary Taylor further, and as we kind of understand, peel open the character that is Zachary Taylor, is despite being a great military leader and despite being a fearsome general, a fearsome leader on the battlefield, he behaved very ethically when it came to conducting warfare. He did not believe in burning villages. He did not believe in a total war. He was not a total war. He was not a Sherman. He
wasn't overthrowing governors and replacing them.
No, he certainly wasn't a Jackson either. But even when, and we'll talk about this later, but even when he was managing, when he was seen in areas being told to keep the peace, native tribes would remark that he was incredibly fair, that he didn't pick favorites. His idea was coexistence. He was one of those guys like, I prefer trade over bullets. And
did growing up in Kentucky, do you think, have any effect on that?
I don't really know if it was upgraded. I think he just was a student of military history and realized like even the best fighters in war, it's a lose-lose on both sides. But yeah, so he's out there. He's in the Missouri Territory. He has to go establish this riverfront. And during this campaign, Taylor's forces, they're skirmishing with all these British allied native forces, particularly near this place called Credit Island, which is like kind of the upper Mississippi region. So he ends up repulsing all these attacks, and because he's just very good at it. He doesn't overstretch his troops. He doesn't pursue. He doesn't fall into a lot of the tropes that a lot of generals at the time are doing, where they don't respect their enemy and they're viewing natives as savages and all these negative stereotypes. Where Taylor's like, no, they're not savages. They have their style of warfare that they fight. I'm not going to go fight them in their style of warfare.
Also, they got the Brits like with them. Like they're obviously being advised. Like
he's like, this is crazy. Like I'm not.
Right.
So he ends up successfully building Fort Johnson at the mouth of the Des Moines River Junction. But unfortunately, General Howard, who's managing all the troops, he does have to abandon it because this gets a little controversial. Mm-hmm. So some places report that General Howard died, and that's why the fort was abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically Taylor was told to come back to St. Louis and coordinate the defense of St. Louis. Okay. Some report that Taylor basically established that choke point. They were like, oh, we have a lot of troops. That's a long supply line. We don't know if this is super valuable. In the Des Moines River and the Mississippi River, specifically the Des Moines River, never really becomes this huge factor during the War of 1812. So right. I think there's a cool story of like, General Howard dies and now Taylor comes to the rescue. I actually don't think that's what happened. I think it was the Des Moines. He successfully established the fort. He crushed a lot of Native American resistance and British resistance along the way. Nothing materialized. Like, dude, we're not having this crazy supply line, and there's no evidence that we're going to see riverboat attacks. This is still like mid War of 1812.
Sounds to me like he completely quashed whatever threat was in that area, and there was no need to maintain a fort anymore.
That's kind of what it was.
Right?
And sometimes his campaign during this period is like, quote unquote, like mixed results. And it gets labeled that because the fort isn't sustained in a lot of cases, but he successfully repels all attacks. But he's not seen as, I don't want to make it sound like he's being labeled as this overly cautious general, because he's not,
No,
or this
right.
commander. He's just very prudent. He's very much like, he's very much like an Omar Bradley. If we're making, keep making World War II references, right? Like that. He's not a Pat where he's like, I'm going to, take out my revolvers and shoot at this airplane. Like, no, it's the Omar Bradley where he's like, ooh, if I position this gas truck here, I'm going to...
Just watched a short of something. I think it was Eisenhower ranking his generals, and he'd rank Patton last.
Oh, he didn't like Patton.
Well, it's because Patton was never around to plan anything. He was great at leading the troops, but he was not very good at being a planner.
Yeah, which is kind of a general's
That's the point of being a general, right?
Yeah. It is this very funny reality that he's living right now, where he is just this, he is this naturally gifted leader, but he just wants to be a soldier. He wants to go fight. He loves his rifle. He loves commanding men in these skirmishes. But unfortunately for Mr. Taylor is that higher things keep calling because he's good at his job, and he comes to this reality. It's not like he writes in a journal or anything like that, but there's very clearly about this time, it's about 1814 to 18 when he rejoins the army in 1816, where he's just like, this is me, this is my life. Like, it's okay for me to be so good at this that I climb the ranks. Mm-hmm. So after he gets recalled to St. Louis, helps shore up the city. Harrison's outmaneuvering the hell out of the Brits at this point. So the Brits, by the time 1814 rolls around, they're not interested in figuring out how to get down to St. Louis, because I think they were like, wow, cool, we'll get our supply lines cut off, and then we're not going to be able to do anything, and we're going to get squished by Harrison.
They couldn't even make it past Detroit.
What is cool though is in 1814. Taylor has his second daughter, Sarah Knox Taylor, so named after Fort Knox,
good
Indiana.
Name. Hey, good names.
I will jump a little bit ahead, but she does end up marrying Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy.
Oh God, yes, that's right.
And
did she stick with them as an insurance salesman?
Yeah, right. No, she divorced. She passed away quite young. He hated Jefferson Davis, dude. He, like, everything I read, they make it try and sound like he just didn't like him. Because at first he was like, oh, don't date an officer. And she's like, oh, I love him. And he's like, oh, that guy sucks. Which is the call of the century, by the way. Like, talking about. But man. Yeah, it was funny because, like, the more research I've done, the more I'm like, did he not like him? Is this retroactive history? It's like, no. There's, like, sources of just being like, I don't like that dude.
Did he have any, like, actual, like, writings of his journals or anything about him?
Well, so Jefferson Davis was like supposed to be his protege. He was supposed to be his mentor. So he was supposed to be who was developing. And Zachary Taylor saw this as a huge, like, betrayal to, like, court his daughter, because he's like, that's crazy. I need to be able to talk to you, not like you're my son-in-law. I need to instruct you on how to be a man. Obviously Jefferson Davis, not the arbiter of morality. And he kind of like saw it weird. Like, I think Zachary Taylor also looked at it like, was he pursuing his daughter? Because, like, obviously Zachary Taylor's having this incredible career, and, like, is Jefferson trying to be coy with this? As you look at Jefferson Davis later in his life, that totally would line up, that Machiavellian approach.
I mean, he's just following in the footsteps of all the founding fathers.
What? What did that have to do with the founding fathers?
Oh, they just all attached themselves to a shooting star by marriage in order to shore up their financial situations.
Okay, Martha Washington, yes. I feel like Abigail Adams doesn't count, but also she's filthy
Abigail
rich.
Adams
She
was
kind
the
of counts.
one to kind of save the family estate too.
No, I'm with you. She counts. Obviously, Jefferson's wife died. Dolly was very prominent.
Yep.
Monroe's wife was.
Mm-hmm.
JQA wasn't. His wife wasn't.
JQA was not.
It was not. Jackson's wife was a divorce. We're outside of the founding fathers. Okay, yeah, so 4 out of 5 out of 6. Yep, no, I'll give you that. That's an accurate statement.
Right.
I don't like how accurate that was. That was like
sad,
very
right?
accurate.
Very, I know.
It's pretty much just like...
We get to redo this whole series on the founding mothers, I think.
I love the founding mothers. I think they're all so different. Like Martha is nothing like Abigail.
Right.
Well, Polly was kind of like the first lady for Jefferson. Like they're all awesome.
Oh, Abigail saved all their notes and correspondence for posterity. Martha's like, no, this is private.
I do. I freaking love Abigail.
Right.
So June 1815 rolls around, the war comes to conclusion, and the army starts cutting sizes. Zach kind of looks around. He's like, we're not fighting wars. We're not really doing any of this. The army has to shrink. He's like, I wouldn't mind going back and making my way as a businessman, as a plantation owner, all that stuff. So he resigns from the army in June of 1815. He begins his nice long retire. He waits 11 months and immediately rejoins. Immediately, just zero waiting around. He gets home. He's like, "This sucks. I don't like this at all. What is going on?" He's like, "This is horrible." So he walks back to the U.S. Army and he's like, "Is there anything you can have me do?" And they're like, "Hey, do you want to go hang out in the middle of nowhere on the western frontier? And we'll make you a fully commissioned major. Like we won't just like, because he was essentially like almost like a field. It was almost like a field commission. So he only had the rank of major effectively during war.
I didn't know that's how that worked.
Bereverent or something like that, I think is what they called it at the time.
To have to like confirm the promotion at some point in order to actually.
Yeah, because he got promoted to major when he was
right.
super young. Like he was crazy young when he got promoted to major. He was like 28 or something like that.
Right. How old is he now at this point?
He'd be 20. He'd be 32. He's 32 at this point.
He's still pretty young.
Oh yeah, I mean, really young to be a major. Like really young to be a major. So he becomes a major. They're like, all right, well, if you want to go serve, we're trying to maintain the western frontier. So they give him a whole regiment to command. And he kind of picks off exactly where he left off. And
immediately got sick.
Immediately malaria. So he said his brother's running his plantation, but he still like thinks of himself as a plantation owner. But he's in the woods of at the time the northwest United States. Now we'd call it the Midwest. And he kind of loves this idea that he's doing the two things he loves. He refers to himself ironically as a planter, not a plantation owner. I don't know why I find that funny. He hates
planter
honorific titles. He really hates them.
Right. Well, it sounded like he was more likely to be in the field than he was to be in the office of the farm, right?
Yep. That's where he liked to be. He liked to be in the barracks, like all that stuff. So he ends up. They don't know what they are happy that he's back. They are happy they have this very skilled officer. He has his own regiment. They have no idea what to do with him. All right, because it's not wartime. The frontier, he's had success in the frontier, but again, that was under wartime. It's a little different. It's hard to maintain discipline when there's no enemy. But they sent him up to Fort Howard, which is in modern day Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they put him on. He's assigned to the Great Lakes region. And there's a series of these established forts in this area that are all for fur trading. And they were kind of reinforced and reestablished after the War of 1812. And basically they say to Taylor, they go, "Hey, Taylor, we want you to go oversee construction of these forts and maintain peace among the settlers and Native Americans." And he already had kind of a reputation built to lead men in these weird, austere conditions. He ends up getting this golden reputation. He's known for being able to go to areas where nobody else could hold, being able to establish strong forts, and actually get the native tribes to cooperate, to work friendly with him. A lot of times he was not beyond kind of what we talked about earlier, the idea of like trade over bullets. He was not beyond any of that. He absolutely loved this idea of just A, leading men, but B, also not putting his men in danger. So he's very quickly, he's endearing himself to his men very, very easily. Yes.
It's amazing how relations can improve when you treat people like people.
Yeah. So he's out there for about 3 years. In 1819, he gets promoted to lieutenant colonel. So he's now very high. He's high up. He's a senior leader in most of the territories. Because remember, these are horrible, far and away territories. And he's the guy who is usually the highest ranked guy, not just in his fort, but in the area. Fair, honest guy, and a great military leader. Yeah. And he has no idea what to do with this. He has no idea what to do with this new notoriety and all the success. And his plantation is growing in success. And unfortunately, he is hiring more slaves. That's, again, we don't want to gloss over. Like, he's not out there planting his crops. Like, but he is growing in this national prestige. But at the end of the day, he's a soldier. He's a soldier and a farm kid. That's all he wants to be. So he ends up he gets invited to all these social events because he's this lieutenant colonel. You can tell he has all these crazy stories. He's constantly getting malaria. It's probably interesting at that time period. We sneezed on him, malaria.
More malaria.
More malaria. So he ends up getting called down to Frankfort, Kentucky. And they're like, hey, we're honoring President James Monroe. This is 1819. And General Andrew Jackson is there too. And, it's funny. They kind of just are like, it's James Monroe, who's very famous military career. Andrew Jackson, progressive, famous military career. Yes. And they're kind of all in the same circles, and they're asking Taylor about his experience and stuff. And something like James Monroe. There's a couple secondary sources that mention this. I just want to be clear, this isn't we're taking we don't have letters from James Monroe talking about this. Gotcha. But apparently James Monroe is just fascinated by modern combat, and it's funny to think the War of 1812
is being modern combat. I know.
Too. But it is, right? It's 50 years.
When was
difference.
the Gatling? Yeah, the Gatling gun was just starting to show up soon at this point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would be
getting really close to
years.
this.
We're 30 years off, so I think that's about the 1850s.
But you've got pistols, you've got repeating rifles that are starting to show up at this point, right? Are we getting close to that yet?
Maybe not 18, because you don't have mechanized manufacturing that you need for repeater rifles.
That is right. Yes.
Yeah, the industrial stamping hasn't really started occurring yet. But the War of 1812 was the first war that you saw explosive shells, which has got to be wild to see, dude.
I know,
dude,
right?
You're like, oh, look at that cannonball. Oh, it blew up? Why did they make it more deadly? Why did they do that?
Dude, it was bad enough when it was just a big ball slamming into everybody.
It was blowing up. Who made this? What psychopath? It was also a doctor for some reason.
That's a wild thing. How do you test that?
Poorly.
I know, right? Anyway.
Put more gunpowder inside of it. What? We have no gunpowder inside of it.
Right.
But so he ends up, running these circles, and he's very well liked. He's not quiet. He's not Calvin Coolidge. He's not quiet, stoic type. He's not ostentatious at all. He's a soldier. Mm-hmm. He's enjoying that.
But didn't Calvin Coolidge lose his son?
Yeah, he was just depressed. He used to sleep till 11:30 every day and go to bed at 4.
Stoic is necessarily the most accurate description of that.
Yeah, he was stoic before, but not after. He's just depressed.
Yeah.
So in 1820, a lot of he's off rotation, so he's back with his family, and he ends up getting involved in overseeing an Army engineering project where he helped the 8th Infantry Regiment construct the Jackson Military Road in Louisiana. And during this time period, there was a horrific outbreak of malaria. Because
he's patient zero.
Because he might be malaria. He might actually be.
What was that woman that Typhoid Mary? He's
Typhoid. He might actually be the patient.
Malaria Taylor.
That's actually my theory. I'm with you, Kyle. I'm on that. But his wife Peggy and their children, they all fall gravely ill. And he actually ends up losing 2 daughters. So he loses Margaret and Octavia.
Octavia was another name? God.
Yeah. He's good names. He picked up good names.
Right?
They passed away in 1820. Peggy barely survives. And she's actually permanently disabled the rest of her life by this tragedy. This is 1820. So
wonder why she's I'm going home to the farm. You can come join me.
It was 20 years after this that she's I'm going home to the farm. She's awesome. Dude, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Peggy. But it's funny. She does end up in Louisiana at the end. But she was not a huge fan of Gulf weather. Shit like that. I know for some reason, there's actual first-hand accounts where it'd be it's muggy down here. And I love that. So it's 200 years later, we're yeah, dude, Peggy Taylor was right. It's muggy down here.
Yeah. There's a lot of bugs.
But this really puts this is the last thing, the last, not missing piece, but the last piece that really starts building the ethos that is, or I should say mythos, that is Zachary Taylor to his men. Because despite all his men know that his wife almost died, he lost 2 kids, but he still dutifully carries on. He's still doing everything he's supposed to be doing. And at this point, like, his men would follow him to hell. Like, he's just seen as this, like, untouchable officer.
Dude, who wouldn't follow a guy that is not afraid to do everything himself? Like, that's the kind of guy you follow.
Yeah. And so he's serving throughout the 1820s. Just mostly frontier duty and a few other things. We'll get into a couple more specifics, but if we're looking at his what's going on in his financial household, he continues to acquire land, and with that, he does acquire slaves. We never shy away from that. He does acquire slaves, and his wealth starts expanding.
Like, from everything that I've been reading on Mr. Zachary Taylor, it doesn't look like he was quite the same with like the accumulating of the people the same way that like Andrew Jackson was. Like, I think I read that he was like building like row housing for his guys that when they retired, like.
Yeah. So Zachary Taylor's history, like with all the founding fathers, is very complicated when it comes to slavery.
Right.
He's not an Andrew Jackson type.
Or a Polk.
Or certainly not a Polk. He was a true believer in paternalism, and for those who don't know, but paternalism is the idea that slave owners had a fatherly responsibility to their slaves,
right?
And
because they couldn't do it themselves.
Yeah, So paternalism is not an excuse. It does not reduce the stain that slavery is, but. On another hand, it is important to contextualize these things, right? Like, however somebody feels about this topic, we should try and present it as objectively to what occurred. Right. So
so the impression that I got from looking at his relationship with it is he just seemed like a good man in a broken system. Was the kind of the impression I was getting.
Yeah, I mean, there is, part of it, because you always have, like, that overhang of, like, you could have just freed the slaves. You could have just freed them. Right. Like, right, you could have just been like,
he also didn't collect payments on the ones that he did allow to buy the freedoms, too, right?
Yeah, there's all this interesting stuff where, like, he never, unlike Jackson, he never used slave drivers. There's letters of him writing to his brother who's managing his estate, like, for old slaves who can't work anymore. Mm-hmm. About, like, you have to take care of them, all that stuff. He taught, even in some accounts that I've read where he wanted them educated, learning trades and stuff. He did practice task slavery, so after slaves were done with whatever their duties were for the day, they could go make their own money. There were slaves who bought their own freedom. He never split up families. He had like again, I don't want to call it a moral code because he's still owning people. And I feel like that's always like, you can only, but.
Right, but it's also a lot of it was because he was buying the entire families.
Yeah, that's
he wouldn't just, right?
Yeah, like we have censuses where like he would not split up families. They did not live in deplorable conditions. And again, we're just trying to compare him to like Jackson, how some other slave owners were at the time. I really don't want to make it sound like we're advocating for paternalism.
No.
But he was just very different. And when we talk about, he's the only founding father who had slaves, who treated his slaves like this. I think that's what stuck out to Kyle and I when we were discussing this. It's not like Washington didn't grow up with slaves, but Martha had them. He almost kind of saw slaves as like Martha's thing. Like, right. Don't forget, like George Washington died. What he was doing earlier in the day before he died was he was outside farming. Like, so like he didn't view it that way. Thomas Jefferson was just a piece of crap. Like, yes. There's no way to get around that. Like, we covered that in detail, but like forcing like one of your slaves to teach his little brother to make mac and cheese and then trapping him in slavery forever is crazy. Right. Obviously, John Adams didn't have slaves. James Madison was super sickly, couldn't take care of himself. Viewed slaves as people. That's why, but that they were like needed to be moved to other countries because they couldn't exist sociologically here. The ACS.
That was Monroe with Monrovia and Liberia.
Yeah, so the ACS was founded by Madison and Monroe were both involved in that. I mean, Monroe. Let's think of it. Monroe died with no slaves because I would love to talk. He'd be one of those guys you'd love to talk to. Like, why did you die with no slaves? Is it because you died poor? Is it because of this or that?
Right.
After everything I've researched on him, I could be completely wrong here. I think he turned at the end of his life. I think he was like, And he died in New York City, which is wild to me.
Right.
With no slaves. Like, I think he was like, "Ooh, wait, this doesn't make any sense. What am I doing here?"
JQA. I don't think he even had homicide.
Yeah. JQA, the
Yes.
winner of this discussion.
Yes.
Jackson, piece of crap.
Piece of garbage.
Then we go to Van Buren, died with no slaves.
But Van Buren was the interesting one.
Had
He was the
slaves.
one who redeemed. I think he redeemed himself. He was,
Ran with Charles Adams against it.
and then
after.
voted for Lincoln.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. William Henry Harrison, he had slaves. But again, like William Henry Harrison's a weird situation with slaves. He viewed it like Madison did.
I wish that I wish the stuff we were reading about Zachary Taylor is what we found about Harrison, because then Harrison would be my new favorite president, I think.
Yeah, Harrison's interesting, dude. He is interesting.
Right. He's my favorite what if president, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Polk was a piece of crap. I mean, if you're buying slave children while you're president, that's just insane to me.
Right.
That is an insane sentence to say that was a thing.
John Tyler.
Yeah, John Tyler. John Tyler was just like, I'm going to become super rich, and my buddy Jackson got super rich this way. And then he was like, also, I hate Andrew Jackson now. It's like, oh. But then, like, Taylor was weird with, like, his understanding of slavery. Like he was bizarre. Like, I know we talked a little bit during his show, but it's like he's in there talking about slavery as if it's like this system he clearly intrinsically knows is bad and doesn't want to be a part of it. But he's like, how else will I be part of the aristocracy if I don't own slaves? And it's like, wow, that's some weird logic there.
Yeah.
See, the thing with Taylor is that he never really wanted to be part of the aristocracy.
No,
he viewed everything as like a business transaction. Which is, again, it is just weird compared to the other politicians at the time, not just the other presidents. He wanted to be a soldier, and he wanted money to go be a soldier. Like, that's really what he wanted,
Right.
like, if I'm being honest. So 1820s, he's managing his plantation from afar. His brother's doing it. It's growing like crazy. By 1850, so by the time he passes away, he had about $6 million in land equivalents, which is, think about what land $6 million in Kentucky would get you today. Yeah, right. So he ends up having a few more kids throughout 1824 to 1826. More interesting is his daughter Mary Elizabeth Taylor ends up living until 1909.
Get out of here! No.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
What?
But yeah, he has a son he has one son, which is Richard Taylor. He goes by Dick, and
A lot of dicks in those stories, right?
there is a lot of Richards. In this.
Always, I know, right?
I think Zach didn't want Rich to be like him, so he sends him to like all the best schools in Kentucky, sends him to all the best schools in New England, and his dad's like he wants to follow his dad's footsteps. He wants to be this Southern planter, but he wants to be like a gentleman Southern planter, and he wants to he wants to be a military leader like his dad. So not inadvertently, but he ends up joining the Confederacy, which is very ironic, considering his father was somebody who fought for the Union, believed in the nation. So he's like, I want to be like my dad, who modeled his entire military career after his father, who was who helped found the country. I'm going to join the Confederacy.
Right.
But yeah, he was not a good general either. He was not a good general.
No.
So as we finish up, Taylor's we're not going to go to the war. We're not going to talk about the Mexican-American War. That's going to be its own discussion. But as we progress through, as we kind of close out what leads up to it, because his presidency comes on very quickly. He finishes out his frontier service in 1920 and just so you know, I always found this super interesting. So he has his last major military engagement. Is really like the early 1820s. He doesn't really see major warfare outside of like frontier skirmishes until the Black Hawk War of 1832, and so he's now a full colonel. And it was brief. The Black Hawk War was very brief. It was in Illinois. He commanded a bunch of regular army troops, so he had real troops, not just militiamen, real trained troops at Fort Armstrong, which is in Rock Island, Illinois. And
I think we had this discussion too, right? A lot of people think that the Blackhawks were a tribe, but the Blackhawks was actually the name of the chief, and that's the image on the Chicago Blackhawks jersey is Chief Blackhawk.
Chief Blackhawk.
Yeah.
So he ends up really not having that much dramatic combat, but what's very interesting, and we talked about this when we previously recorded, and I always love bringing this up. So, part of the other reason is that during the Black Hawk War, like, they did want to fight army regulars, and they're sure as heck not fighting Colonel Taylor. Like,
right.
That's not going to be nice for anybody. So, he didn't really play a dramatic role in a lot of stuff, but he was there at the surrender of Chief Blackhawk. So Chief Blackhawk surrenders in 1832. And Colonel Taylor actually is the one who takes him into custody, and he gets kind of this is kind of interesting. He treats him with a lot of respect.
Full honors, right?
Yeah,
treats him like an officer, I think.
Yeah, so he treats him like a surrendering general. And what's funny is that a lot of Taylor's troops actually talk very positive about that. They talk about, like, oh, look at all the respect he showed them. And what I think is kind of interesting is that when Winfield Scott comes and takes him, comes and takes Blackhawk, he parades them all like he's a circus animal.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
It ends up pissing off a lot of the troops because they saw Taylor being, like, respectful of it. Like, a lot of these troops had friends who died in the Black Hawk War, so then to pretend the guy leading the opposition was a clown, I know,
right?
Kind of not a good look.
Right.
By this time, he's now known by everybody in the military as Rough and Ready. That is just his good old Rough and Ready.
And I say too, like, the reason why the troops, I think, were on his side, that just speaks for how much that they respected him. Because I guarantee you, if Taylor would have went and paraded him around like a clown, the men probably would have been upset if he would have been treated nicely by the next guy. You know what I mean? It was their respect for Taylor, I think, that they respected the Chief Blackhawk.
Yeah, and so after the Black Hawk Wars end, he's kind of, like, not transitioning out, but he's been in the military almost 40 years at this point. He's over 30 years of service. He starts looking at houses, different plantations he's looking to buy. He ends up buying one in the 1840s. He ends up buying early 1840. He ends up buying one in Louisiana, despite just perpetually getting sick every time he goes near Louisiana. He felt bad for Peggy. He's like, I've dragged her around this entire...
She didn't even like Louisiana. Why don't you buy her a house in Kentucky or somewhere else?
She hated the mugginess.
Right?
Apparently this house is, like, on the, like, was actually, like, a really, like, I don't know if it was on the water, but it was in a very nice area. I don't think it was on the water. It was on, like, a lake or something.
Born in Houston. That's pretty close to the water. The closer to the water you get, the muggier it gets.
Yeah, dude, that is true.
Right.
And so he goes, but he has one last real foray before the Mexican-American War. And this is what set up his course to what he would become because of the Mexican-American War. And something different we're doing in this episode is we haven't talked about politics, because I can't stress this enough. He really didn't have a political ideology or anything until he was kind of thrust into the limelight in the election of 1848. But in the 1840s, he was called upon to serve in the Seminole Wars. Interesting.
Tippecanoe. I was getting really excited.
So the Second Seminole War breaks up, and it's really...
Is this during the Removal Act? Is this part of the enforcements of those, or is this after that?
It kind of, so it's like the Second Seminole War is like 1835, so you already have some of it definitely helped the tension, but this largely has to do with a lot of
this was the
European inflaming of the relationship.
Okay.
It's 1835, and just like you said, Kyle, like there's the U.S. removal efforts are causing inflammation to this, but it wasn't, there's a reason it's the Second Seminole War. There's already a first one.
Right.
And they're having a hellacious time trying to fight the Seminoles. And so they call in Zachary Taylor. He's at this point he's famous, and he gets sent down there.
He gets malaria.
He gets malaria, immediately is sick. And the U.S. troops on there are they're motivated, but there's crap leadership. It's a horrific place to fight. They're fighting an enemy who knows how to fight there. He comes down there. They're kind of invigorated. And So in 1837, he finally has total command of the U.S. troops fighting the Seminoles, and it's in the swamps and Everglades, which I don't know, Kyle, I know you've probably been down that area. Imagine trying to get through there in the 1830s.
No, thank you.
So he musters 1,000 men, primarily made of the 6th Infantry, which he's been involved with for almost 30 years at this point, and a bunch of Missouri volunteers. These Missouri volunteers are not like militiamen. These are trained soldiers. These are good quality soldiers who are disciplined. And at this point, these dudes are like AAA baseball players, and they're getting to like they see Taylor, and that's like going to playing with like Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Dude, they're pumped. They're like this is sick. Like they feel like Superman showed up to the battle. They're like, oh, we're gonna have some fun with this kryptonite malaria. So the Seminole War. There's 2 Seminole warriors. There's a Chief Billy Bowlegs and Chief Alligator. I don't know which name's better.
Alligator.
Maybe.
I don't think
You're probably right.
Bowlegs.
So he managed to muster 1,000 troops, and they advance into the swamp, which is kind of blowing the Seminoles' minds at this point. And there's a battle, the Battle of Lake Okeechobee.
Dude, nice. I think you nailed that.
Dude,
one.
I'm so pumped. I had to look that up like 5 times. I'm very pumped with that. So the Seminoles are playing defense. So they have about 500 troops. Now, the general rule is it's a 1-to-3 ratio. Like if you're playing defense, you need 3 people on offense in order to dislodge them.
Yeah.
So he's in there. Technically, he has more troops, but he's undergunned relatively. They end up having this massive encounter. And again, he's a maneuver warfare guy. He's very much like Harrison. He's very much about logistics, but he's also just a good military mind. He doesn't allow the Seminoles to escape. What ends up happening is he ends up basically outmaneuvering them. He ends up trapping them in between this lake and basically open swamp in the Everglades, and it ends up being a complete rout. And what's important to remember, it's not like he fought them on a frontier or on a border. He went into their home and fought them.
Completely different environment than his entire career has been fought, basically.
Yep. And he's comfortable in that being out on their own, like, very, very similar, Kyle. And it's not a massacre. I want to be clear. It's a very, very definitive, strategic military victory. He does not allow...
It's one of those ones that scares you, like just the ruthless efficiency is what it sounds like to me.
He does not let it turn into a massacre. This is not a turkey shoot. Right. He has a lot of respect for whoever he's fighting.
But you know that he could have if he wanted to.
And that's honestly scares them more.
Right?
Like, to be honest, they're like, oh, this. Like, I fought you as brutally as I could. You showed restraint and you crushed me.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting note. Interesting note. So after he defeats the Native American, he defeats the Seminoles. He ends up having getting kind of a little bit of trouble because he ends up being.
Did he also overthrow some governors?
No, honestly, the opposite. Okay. So he's taken apart in all these Native American campaigns from the Great Lakes to Florida, and he's had so many skirmishes. He's one of the most tried and tested military minds we have. He is, and what he always talked about is he spoke very publicly. He admired the guerrilla tactics and independence of the native forces, and used to lament the volunteer militiamen. He, in a lot of cases, he would say, "I'd prefer the skill of the indigenous fighters to these undisciplined militiamen who come in with this air of superiority, thinking they can just fight soldiers who have been fighting." He's like, he's a soldier, even when it's an enemy. But so he routs the Seminoles, ends the Seminole War, and pushes the Seminoles basically back into the swamp. They will never rise to be an issue again. And he comes, because at this point I think they're like, oh wow, we got messed up bad. Like, he should not have been able to, he came into our house, beat us up.
Right.
And we're like, oh crap, I didn't think you'd come into our house and beat us up. I thought like you could beat us and we left.
And then he left nicely after taking our weapons.
Even better, he found a bunch of escaped slaves, about 300 escaped slaves, and a bunch of slave owners were like, hey, can you bring back my slaves? And he was like, you come here and get them. And he goes, it's not the U.S. Army's job to capture your slaves, and left. And they were like, we're upset. And he's like, cool, I have an army. And I was the only person who's been... Andrew Jackson was not that successful in the Seminole Wars at all. Like, he fought northern skirmishes in northern Florida. He didn't march into Florida, beat them at their own game with their best generals. And so he was like, you go there and get them. And left. And everybody was like, oh. Another thing, he did have an issue with slave. Again, this is so weird to talk about this, but like he had an issue with slave owners who abused their slaves, which is like owning a slave is abusing a slave.
Right.
So I don't know if there's more high ground there. It is an interesting note there. So I don't know if he viewed the fact that those slaves ran away as like evidence that he's like, you must be a bad slave owner. And I'm like, reading this, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm looking at this in like historiography, right? I'm looking at this as somebody in 2025, but like if you're in 1840, that must have seemed crazy. Like this dude's just like, no, you're a crappy person. I'm not helping you. Also, I'm clearly the best dude at this. So what are you gonna do? Yell at me? So 1840 ends. 1840 ends with him finally purchasing the plantation for Peggy in Louisiana, Cypress Grove. By this point, he's very financially secure. He has no financial worries. He's done everything he wanted to do. He's been the great military leader. He's still rough and ready, though. Like, he still misses, like, he wants to be in the field, being in mud with his troops. His troops miss him a lot, too. So he never really retires his military commission, which is very interesting.
I don't think you really do as an officer. I think it's like a lifelong thing, usually.
Yeah. So he will quietly pause his military career, not for 11 months this time, but for 4 years. And we will pick up with the Mexican-American War. But we're currently the next time he will put back on his boots will be to go and basically fight in America's first international war.
Wait, are we doing Mexican-American War next, or are we doing his presidency next?
I know we'll probably do his presidency next, but I just wanted to that's the next chronologically. That's
okay. And that'll be the third episode of this series.
Third episode. I'm pumped for this one. You're gonna hate this one, dude.
The presidency one?
No, you're gonna hate the Mexican American War one.
Why would I hate that?
It's just wild. It's just Zachary Taylor going around kicking people in the mouth.
That sounds amazing.
It's just him just being angry at people.
Does he cross paths with Daniel Boone or any of those guys?
No, he's too busy, like, essentially trying not to massacre people. Like, it's very weird, dude. Because his whole time, he's just like, I don't know, man. The whole time, he's just trying, again, not to massacre his enemy. He's like, be better fighters. Why are you better fighters? It's like when you're boxing, put your arms up. Why are you not putting your arms up?
Leaving tactics manuals, like
oh,
battle suits. Like, please study this for the next one. All right. Well, I think we've gotten through part 1 of Zachary Taylor then. So if you join us next week, we will finally be getting to the presidency of Mr. Zachary Taylor. Let us know in the comments how this new information that you've learned today has changed your lives. You can email us at buckstartsherepodcast@gmail.com because it's nice to hear from you and just never write us anymore. Tag that thumbs up, subscribe on your way out, visit the website to stay up to date. We'll see you all next week. Produced by China Shop Productions.